I can hear you guys already in the comment section. Y'all talking about, oh, you looking like a Dollar Tree Ezekiel Elliott. You leave me alone. Braids are out. I need to wash my hair. But I don't have time to wash my hair because I was watching the New York Knicks in their second preseason game. Now, obviously, I didn't make a video after the first preseason game when we won. Missed that opportunity because after this last preseason game, it wasn't so pretty. Our trip to Detroit was two completely different experiences, okay? We had one experience where we went in there and we looked like we were ready to play defense. We had two solid lineups, you know, from a starting lineup that struggled a little bit but figured it out in the end, and a dope lineup coming off the bench. And then in the second game, we could barely score against the zone. Which one should we be taking serious? Run the intro. What's going on, CK Cruise Boy? CK2K here. Welcome back to another video. I do apologize that there was no video Saturday and that there was no Coast to Coast on Sunday. For my real ones, Coast to Coast will be on tonight. We just had to move it a day. B-War and I had some things going on, but Coast to Coast will be tonight. You should already see the thumbnail, so you already know. But tonight, Coast to Coast will be here. We're not letting you guys hanging. We are back officially. Episode 2 coming tonight. Also, yeah, like I said, video didn't happen on Saturday. We were having internet problems, so I just figured I'll squash it and we'll talk about both games in this video. So here we are, talking about our trip to Detroit. But if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, because your boy is going to be uploading pretty damn regularly, because after every game you're going to be getting a video like this one. But the New York Knicks, 2 preseason games in the books. We're about to wrap up preseason this week, with Wednesday and Friday being against the Cleveland Cavaliers, luckily in Madison Square Garden. But we got to talk about this up and down trip in Detroit. Now, like I said, game 1 was a game that looked great. Like, from all ends, it looked good. RJ Barrett, who started off rough, ended the game pretty solid. But the main thing was, RJ Barrett was clearly the #1 option in that first game. Second game, he definitely played a completely different game, looked very efficient, a lot of great stuff out there defensively as well as offensively, but he didn't quite look like the #1 option like he did in the first night. Well, like Julius Randle tried to take that role back a little bit, and it didn't work. Game 1 was really cool to see because we literally saw the rotation of the starting 5 that we all knew it was going to be, of Elfrid Payton, Alec Burks, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Nerlens Noel. And we saw that they didn't really play too well together. Nerlens Noel played really well. RJ Barrett just couldn't get his shot going until the second half, and Julius Randle was well. Julius Randle and Elfrid Payton played well in that game up until the end, where him and Julius Randle tried to lose the game, as they typically do at the end of games. But then the second game, it was a completely different story, because in the second game we saw the same starting lineup, but we didn't see the same kind of efficiency from both Nerlens Noel or Elfrid Payton. It wasn't quite the same game that they had in the first game, but Alec Burks came out and he was firing off on all cylinders, looked really good. Like I said, RJ Barrett from beginning to end played a very well overall game. But what was mainly different to me in this one was the rotations. Obviously in preseason, like I said to start this whole entire thing, I want Fizdale. Definitely not Fizdale. I want Tibbs to get crazy and get funky with the lineup. Try different things out. Try the rotations out a little bit. We saw in the first game, he did literally a 5 on, 5 off type of substitution, where he would take all 5 of the starters out, put in a brand new 5, and then run it that way, and then make a little bit of changes to end off the quarters. Cool. I was cool with that. But then in this one, you can see he was doing more of a traditional substituting method, where Dennis Smith Jr. was the first one off the bench, as well as Mitchell Robinson coming in off the bench for Nerlens Noel and Elfrid Payton. Problem is, we saw that Dennis Smith Jr. played a lot better when he had Frank Ntilikina on his side than when it was just Dennis Smith Jr. running the show. Now, I don't know if this is just something that Tom Thibodeau is trying to try out, but he, for whatever reason, just like every coach in the past, was not playing Frank Ntilikina the way Frank Ntilikina needed to be played. Frank Ntilikina, from the moment he got on the court, was doing Frank Ntilikina things. It's like this every time he plays on the court. I don't understand why coach in and coach out, the fans can see that Frank Ntilikina is clearly the best option at the point guard than anybody else on the court every single time. Mind you, sure, he can play the off guard, that's fine, but the point is, Frank Ntilikina should not be a third option the way that he was used, especially in the second game, because Dennis Smith Jr. just was not cutting it. And I really love to hear what my Dennis Smith Jr. stands would have to say as an excuse this time around, because First game, he showed some signs, but even then, I wasn't really too entirely impressed. And the second game was utterly atrocious, just was not good. But we also got to see a signing of Immanuel Quickley in the second game, and Immanuel Quickley doing a lot of things that you'd expect. He was all over the court. You can see he was like, Spider-Man type stuff where he was doing a lot of different things. We didn't really get to see much of the jump shot, but we did see his hustle in the game, and it was nice to see. And Kevin Knox did a good job in both games of doing everything, but the problem was he just wasn't good enough on the offensive end where it seemed like he definitely canceled himself out, because he was doing a very good job of the rebounding. He was, in my opinion, doing a good job facilitating, moving the ball, leading to one of Obi Toppin's best highlights. He was doing a lot of those things. His defense was a little bit more admirable. It wasn't great, but it was more admirable in the two games. But his shot was not falling. And to be real with you, I like the shots he was taking, but if the shot doesn't fall, it kind of canceled out the other stuff for a guy like Kevin Knox, who is supposed to be known as the scorer. That is what Kevin Knox was drafted to do. Definitely was a project, but he was drafted to shoot, because his shot is a nice looking jump shot that should be going in. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to get too high or too low on the preseason games. Like it was frustrating. The rotations were frustrating. Julius Randle was just overall frustrating from top to bottom. So many different things were frustrating about these games, but it's preseason. Like Mitchell Robinson, like I'm trying not to get too low on Mitchell Robinson, because Mitchell Robinson, especially in the second game, just was not impressive. The first game to me was ho-hum, but he was doing a lot of things right in the first game compared to the second game, where he did what I call the NBA 2K Rec League frustration fouls. And what those are, for my people who play 2K and know and play in the rec, you know that when you miss a shot and you're so confident it was supposed to go in, but it doesn't go in, and the other team gets the rebound, is about to go on a break, but you foul them because you just spamming square or you're spamming X because you're so mad that you missed that shot. That's what Mitchell Robinson did several times in this game, leading to him having 5 fouls in 12 minutes. But just something about Mitchell Robinson seems off to me. Something about him seems off, and I'm also just completely convinced that he's never going to take a jump shot. All these workout videos that we saw, and I said it in this past offseason, that I'm just done talking about it. I'm not convinced about it. He's not going to shoot a jump shot. It's not happening, and I'm more convinced now than I ever was before. He's had opportunities in the first game, and he had way more opportunities in the second game, and he passed them all up. It's a preseason game, more so now than in the regular season would I want him to shoot that shot. He didn't shoot it either time ever, so I'm just convinced that he's just not going to shoot that shot. Those workout videos and those things that, possibly he can hopefully be the next Anthony Davis and stuff like that, I'm mailing all that in. Mitchell Robinson is what Mitchell Robinson is, and that is a rim protector that can do a lot of things around the rim by dunking and finishing the second chance layups or dunks. Other than that, I'm just not convinced that he's going to be able to do much of anything else. So that bears the question, are we going to be putting him in trades? Again, preseason. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? That also being said, our rookie Obi Toppin, who had such a great debut that a lot of people were so excited about to see in his first game, he flipped around and didn't really have the best showing in the second game. But watching the game back, wasn't entirely his fault. I just don't like the matchup of Dennis Smith Jr. as point guard with a lot of these guys. Kevin Knox didn't play as good the second game he did in the first game with Dennis Smith Jr. as the sole point guard. I liked him better when he had IQ and Frankie in there. And the same thing goes for Obi Toppin. It just doesn't work with them. And there was a lot of times when Dennis Smith Jr. was putting the blame on Obi, when that was never the case. The times when Dennis Smith Jr. just had 3 possessions in a row where he was turning over the ball, putting Kevin Knox in bad positions, put Obi in bad positions where it just led to turnovers, and just was so ugly to watch. So it's hard for me to entirely put the blame on Obi Toppin for this second game, where I just feel like the rotations made no sense for Obi Toppin at all in that game, in the second game at least. But let's talk about some big takeaways from this. Like I said, I don't want to get too high and too low on the preseason, so I'm not going to sit here and get upset and negative about things that Julius Randle did or didn't do, Mitchell Robinson did or didn't do, Dennis Smith Jr. did or didn't do, and so on and so forth. There were some takeaways about this that are changes from what we've seen in the past that I'm very happy about. I mean, RJ Barrett, we heard about his jump shot changing, and although it started off really cold in the first game, we did see it second half and on. Even up until this second game, we saw that changed. His shot, especially in the mid-range, looks way more efficient, to the point where he had step backs, turnaround fadeaways, so many different angles and ways for him to get a shot off that it just made RJ Barrett look really, really, really well. And that's something that we really need him to do. I tell you guys this all the time. The minute RJ Barrett has a consistent jump shot, it's done for the league. And I think it starts with the mid-range. The three-point shot will come. I do believe that RJ Barrett has the potential to be a three-point shooter. It is only his second year in the league. He'll be fine. If the mid-range comes together, that's already above and beyond what he's done in the past. He's never been much of a shooter, and if he can get that mid-range shot, especially fadeaways and step backs, down and packed in his game the way that's looking like in these 2 preseason games, that's already a great step, and RJ Barrett could be around a 19 to 20 point per game shooter this coming season in his second year if we run the game through him, and if Julius Randle isn't going to do anything to sabotage other players on his team like RJ Barrett. So that was definitely one big takeaway. Another big takeaway that I took from this team was guys like Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, and the possibility of the importance of Austin Rivers. Alec Burks is exactly what I said he would be when we signed him. Alec Burks is that guy that is going to be very reliable for us to get points. We showed it. He's just a guy that gets buckets. He goes out there and he makes shots, and he did a good job with that in this game, and we saw that firsthand in this game. That's who I expect Alec Burks to be to a higher extent. I think he's going to be getting more minutes than he has been in these last 2 games, because obviously you're trying to showcase and see what you can get from the rest of the players on your team. So Alec Burks, I feel like, is going to be a guy that's going to be really reliable on the offensive end. That being said, Nerlens Noel is who I thought he was going to be, and I'm excited about that. Another rim protector. Nerlens Noel wasn't as efficient in the second game as he was in the first game, but he still did good things. He was always around the rim. He's a guy that can shoot that mid-range shot a little bit more comfortably than he has in the past. He's a good starting point that we have that can surround the rim, that can help us stretch the floor a little bit with his rim protection when he's on the court, and then have that continue when Mitchell Robinson gets on the court. Those are positives in my eyes, and this is something that we've been needing for so long, because it's like once Mitchell Robinson was on the court, we had no rim protection. We saw in the first 2 games that this is something that Nerlens Noel will be very helpful on when in the starting unit, and I like him in the starting unit. I'm a fan of it. And like I said, with Austin Rivers, we're seeing our deficiency at scoring at the 1 guard. I think Austin Rivers might be getting a lot more point guard play than he expects. I love that Immanuel Quickley got some minutes, but I still don't expect Immanuel Quickley to be playing a part of the main rotations when the season begins. I did want to see him get more of an opportunity to steal some minutes. I do believe he's still at the bottom tier of those minutes that we're getting. So with that being said, whose minutes gets taken, I really think if Dennis Smith Jr. doesn't turn it around, unless they're just as flabbergasted with Dennis Smith Jr. as I really think that they are, Dennis Smith Jr. might be the one that might be losing a lot of the minutes. Reggie Bullock might not be playing as much minutes as you see. Maybe Reggie Bullock is playing the bulk of the minutes that Austin Rivers would be playing if he was healthy. Austin Rivers is definitely going to be a part of this rotation, and you can see where his role is going to be needed and where it's going to be important, and that is scoring the basketball and moving the ball, and that's something that Austin Rivers does really well. So the excitement of what Austin Rivers can do for this team is definitely seen and definitely needed after these first 2 games against Detroit. One of my biggest worries, that's the best question, because I don't want to get too ahead of myself with Julius Randle, but Julius Randle showed us the same stuff that he did in the season prior. I don't see much of anything else changing with Julius Randle. He's trying to bring the ball up. That's not his role. His defense is lazy, which has been the case for a long period of time. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe Julius Randle turns it around when we find a better rotation for him. I just don't know. I'm just not a fan of him and RJ Barrett in the same rotation. I'm also not a fan of him and Obi Toppin with the 4 and 5 thing. It just doesn't work. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it works. It's not a good idea. It does not, it's not a good look. So my worries are still a lot of the same when it comes to Julius Randle, and my other worries are the fact that we're going to continue to force feed Dennis Smith Jr. and continue to not see what we have in front of us with Frank Ntilikina. Those are my worries for this coming season. I mean, I hope that these are just rotation choices just because it's the second game of preseason. Maybe we see something different on Wednesday when we play against the Cavaliers. Who knows? But as far as that, those are 2 of the biggest worries I have. I'm not worried about Obi Toppin. I think more of what we saw in that first game is who he is than what we saw in the second game. So I'm not really entirely worried about Obi Toppin. And I'm not entirely worried about some of the things that we saw from other players. Like Reggie Bullock was off. I don't think that's going to be the case a lot if Reggie does get some minutes. Elfrid Payton didn't really do much this game, but I like more of what we saw in the first half of the first game from Elfrid Payton. I expect to see more of that. And a thing that really pissed off a lot of you guys, and that's Nerlens Noel starting over Mitchell Robinson. I personally don't have a problem with that. Mitchell Robinson has shown that he's not a starting center yet, and that's unfortunate because he's coming into year 3 where a lot of people are expecting him to make that turnaround season, but it's looking a lot the same of Mitchell in my eyes when it comes to Mitchell Robinson. You're starting to see what the frustration may be amongst a lot of other people in the Knicks organization. That being said, Nerlens Noel might just be our best case at the starting center and I don't have a problem with that. But let me know your thoughts on everything that happened in these first 2 games. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below so I can read them in the next video. We do have our next preseason game on Wednesday, and then our last one on Friday, both against the Cavaliers in New York. Like I said, for those who are fans of Coast to Coast will be back with episode 2 tonight. I know we normally do Sundays, but we had to change the plan and we moved it one day, so tonight will be episode 2. So be there. Thumbnail should be already up. Join the live. It'll be up at 10 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. PST. Be there for that. Let me know all your thoughts on everything, rotations, players, how the 2 games went, what worries you, what doesn't worry you. Let me know your thoughts on everything. Just remember, it's the preseason. Do not get too high or too low on what you saw in these first 2 games. All right, if you haven't already, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Join the CK crew if you haven't already. Don't worry, I did not forget about the fantasy draft for the CK crew. Stay tuned for that. I will have more information on that this week. I promise you that. I'm just trying to find the right dynasty league for us and for those who want to be a part of that, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, being your boy CK, catch you guys in the next video. Let's get it. I'm out of here. And peace. And leave me alone about my hair, y'all. The hair is back. The fro's back. I need to wash my hair, though.
Feeling like I won the lotto. Always taking trips with a new chick, asking where the time goes. And I want